So it seems like Kathleen Kennedy is on her way out from Lucasfilm. It seems like in the near future, Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm will be parting ways. And for me and a lot of other people in this YouTube space, a lot of other people that make YouTube videos like me that think the same way as me, it seemed pretty inevitable that Kathleen Kennedy would be leaving Lucasfilm soon. It seemed like a power shift already happened at Lucasfilm. It seemed like Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni, someone like that already took over Lucasfilm. Someone who has a very different philosophy from Kathleen Kennedy is already calling the shots over there, because based on current events, there's just no way that Kathleen Kennedy is making these decisions. There's no way that anyone under Kathleen Kennedy, anyone from the Kathleen Kennedy faction is calling these shots that are happening right now. All these current events that we're getting about the High Republic books being 99 cents, about the KOTOR remake happening, all of this stuff Kathleen Kennedy would never do. Ever since Disney took over Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy has been against everything that happened under George Lucas. Kathleen Kennedy has been against the KOTOR remake. Kathleen Kennedy has been against the Legends novels. So now all of a sudden they're re-releasing Legends books, they're making the KOTOR remake. They're not pushing the High Republic much anymore, and I'll show you exactly what I mean by that later on in the video, but they're not pushing the High Republic much anymore. And this all comes right after they took a huge break from social media, right after they make all these announcements about this old Star Wars stuff, this old Star Wars content, this George Lucas Star Wars content, not necessarily made by George Lucas, but made under George Lucas. These Legends novels were written when George Lucas was still president of Lucasfilm, when he still owned Lucasfilm, when it was still his. And now they're remaking KOTOR. They have a Republic Commando HD port coming out. For me and for a lot of other people, this just signals that Kathleen Kennedy is no longer calling the shots, that there is a power shift going on. But for a lot of people, they're still skeptical, and I can understand why you would be skeptical. We've gotten burned many times in the past with these reports. A couple years ago, it was reported that Kathleen Kennedy is not going to renew her contract. She ended up renewing and broke a lot of people's hearts by doing so. But this time just seems different. We're approaching on the date where her contract expires. It expires in a few months, and it just seems like too much of a coincidence that they stopped pushing the High Republic and they're pushing all this old George Lucas content, along with all these reports coming out, all these leaks coming out saying that Kathleen Kennedy is on her way out, saying that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, or at least someone from their faction, at least someone with their philosophy, at least someone that Jon Favreau trusts, is taking over Lucasfilm, is replacing Kathleen Kennedy. Maybe not as president of Lucasfilm, maybe not officially president of Lucasfilm, but they are calling the shots. Maybe they don't have the title of president of Lucasfilm, but they're calling the shots. Kathleen Kennedy is not calling the shots. And in this video, I'm going to show you yet another report that Kathleen Kennedy is on her way out. It's reported by so many people. It seems like every single leaker, every single scooper has a report that Kathleen Kennedy is not calling the shots, or at least that Kathleen Kennedy could be on her way out very soon. Let's get into this news. This article from Pirates and Princesses says Kathleen Kennedy's tenure as the head of Lucasfilm may be coming to a close. Quietly, things have been shifting at Lucasfilm and the Walt Disney Company. One might say the mood is different in the house that George Lucas built. It started with the dramatic cleanup of social media behavior by Lucasfilm employees. Very true, I didn't mention that, but they did go on a social media cleanse where every single person at Lucasfilm was very silent on social media, including the Star Wars official accounts, including the Star Wars Twitter account and YouTube account, which they had been very active on right before that cleanse. Then, despite the Herculean efforts it would take to get Indiana Jones 5 into production, everything was thrown at making the movie a reality. Head of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy began scheduling appearances at the production of the movie, along with her husband Frank Marshall, in a way that isn't often seen for executive producers. Next, the bad news for Star Wars and Disney Plus began subtly leaking from Disney, almost certainly in a soft, coordinated manner. And this next part of the article is something else that's been heavily reported. A lot of people are saying that Kathleen Kennedy is just staying at Lucasfilm to oversee Indiana Jones 5 because she's heavily involved in the Indiana Jones franchise. She is very heavily invested into that franchise, so she wants to just stay around for that movie. She's not really too much involved in Star Wars anymore. She's not going to be calling any more shots for Star Wars, but she just wants to stay around to oversee Indiana Jones 5, and then she'll walk away from the position. Is Indiana Jones the swan song for Miss Kennedy? Kennedy is in the final year of her contract with the Walt Disney Company for presiding over the studio largely about Star Wars. Her tenure has been a bumpy one. While her immediate box office success with The Force Awakens and Rogue One was monumental, things quickly devolved afterwards from a financial position. Very true. Whereas Disney properties grew in popularity and economic importance, Star Wars began to diminish with the release of The Last Jedi. It was a steady drop until The Mandalorian. And the fact that there was such a huge drop off in box office numbers after The Force Awakens, we had The Last Jedi come out that did pretty well compared to a lot of other movies, but it didn't do that well for a Star Wars movie. Star Wars movie needs to blow the box office numbers out of the water. They need to blow every other movie's box office numbers out of the water as well. And it just seemed to decline more and more after The Last Jedi as well. We had Solo, which just absolutely flopped at the box office. That definitely lost a lot of money for Disney and for Lucasfilm. And then The Rise of Skywalker made $1 billion, so you could say that that's a success technically for a lot of other movies. But in my eyes, for a Star Wars movie, $1 billion is not a success. Not nowadays, when you have Avengers movies making $3 billion. Star Wars needs to make $3 billion. Star Wars is the biggest IP in the world when done properly, which hasn't been done in quite a while up until The Mandalorian. And I think Disney is starting to see that if they put someone like Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni, just someone like that. I'm not saying them, but if they put someone like them who really understands Star Wars, who really understands what the fans want, who really understands how to make money, how to get the fans excited, you can be having $3 billion Star Wars movies coming out every single year if you put them in charge. Let their universes, let their shows in the movies, and the box office numbers will be gigantic. In my eyes, it's a no-brainer to have someone like Jon Favreau running Lucasfilm. Not only does he understand Star Wars, but he also understands the business side of things. Probably not as well as Kathleen Kennedy. I will admit that Kathleen Kennedy probably knows the ins and outs of Hollywood. She probably knows how everything works business-wise, but she just doesn't seem like a good person to have around for creative. She seems like she hinders the creative process quite a lot, and I could be totally wrong on that. I don't know, because I'm from the outside looking in. I'm not an insider. I don't claim to have any inside sources. So there's no way for me to know for sure if Kathleen Kennedy is hindering any creative processes, but from the outside looking in, that's all we can assume. Whenever directors and writers are getting fired off of all of these projects, who is the person that's the president of Lucasfilm? The buck stops with Kathleen Kennedy. We can only assume that it's Kathleen Kennedy's fault. That's all we can do. Maybe she has corporate overlords that really hinder her creative process. I don't know, but all I can assume is that Kathleen Kennedy is just not good at her job. If you've been following Star Wars, you've probably read articles like the one above. You know that there are people who defend Kathleen Kennedy and those who despise how she's performed. But the tenuous relationship she's had with Disney was ultimately frayed when Favreau demonstrated just how popular Star Wars can still be with The Mandalorian. And yet that was somewhat squandered with the mishandling of Gina Carano. Whatever your opinion of the actress, the way in which she was terminated from the company was a public relations nightmare. 100%, it seems like Disney really lacks in the social media department. It seems like it really lacks in the public relations department, and Bob Iger was so good at that stuff whenever he was CEO. He was so good at the PR stuff. Now that he's leaving the company very soon, not only is he not the CEO anymore, but he's officially leaving the company in December, I believe. So once he's gone, I think Disney is going to be in big trouble, social media wise, public relations wise. They're just going to be in big trouble because they're already struggling, and he is still there, and he is so good at that type of stuff. Now, however, things are beginning to change behind the scenes. Of these heads, Feige is seen as the most essential executive, having proved his mettle with the massive success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and streaming shows like WandaVision. After it was announced in 2019 that Feige would produce a Star Wars movie, there were rumors that he might assume more control of Lucasfilm. However, insiders say that Feige is fully committed with his Marvel duties and has no ambition to lead Lucasfilm or take more of a role. In the above quote from Variety article by Brent Lang and Matt Donnelly, you'll notice that the insiders they've spoken with are purposely throwing Kathleen Kennedy as well as Pixar leaders under the proverbial bus. Kevin Feige, head of Marvel, is the real essential executive, they say. And while they heap praise on the other Disney execs throughout their expose, Kennedy is essentially forgotten other than this throwaway mention. Her only reason for being included in this story is to say that Feige could have her job, except he doesn't want it. That lines up with what we've heard for the past few years. We've reported for the past year that Disney would likely be amicable to some easy way to part with Miss Kennedy, but what's telling is that Variety is now putting that information out into the public sphere from the position as a trade publication. And make no mistake, Disney uses outlets like Variety to tip the industry as to where they'd like to go. And not only that, not only is Variety leaking the fact, reporting the fact that Kathleen Kennedy's job is up for grabs if Kevin Feige would want it, but they also called out Disney the other day for their poor management. When people like Variety, when publications like Variety, when Forbes start coming after Disney for their management, that's when you know something has to change. That's when you know you have the wrong people employed, you have the wrong people in positions of power. And Kathleen Kennedy, for me at least as a Star Wars fan, is at the top of that list for people that should not have the job that they have. It just seems like it doesn't fit. It just seems like Kathleen Kennedy is not a good fit to run Lucasfilm. I know she's a very accomplished producer. I know she knows the ins and outs of Hollywood. I know she knows how it works. It just seems like Lucasfilm, it seems like Star Wars is just a different animal, and it seems like Kathleen Kennedy can't handle it, but I think we're gonna get some good news very soon. I don't think that she'll be back as the head of Lucasfilm. I think she's just done too much wrong, and now not only have we seen her do wrong over and over again, but what makes this time different from the last time is we see Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni do right over and over again for Star Wars live action. Dave Filoni is not fit to run Lucasfilm, but Jon Favreau could, or at least someone like Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau could help out with the running of Lucasfilm. Still have him primarily on creative projects, but also have him help out the new president of Lucasfilm, or have him be a co-president of Lucasfilm and just run the creative side of things. I think there's a power shift going on. I think Kathleen Kennedy is out of there very soon, and a lot of the reports that I'm hearing, a lot of different reports from different news outlets, from different publications, are saying the same thing, that Kathleen Kennedy's days at Lucasfilm are numbered. But let me know what you guys think in the comments about this whole situation. Do you think I'm lying to your face right now? Do you think Kathleen Kennedy will not be leaving Lucasfilm anytime soon? Do you think she'll be at Lucasfilm until the day that she dies? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter or join the Discord, both of those links will be in the description as well. But thank you for watching the video, and hope to see you in the next one.